Welcome to another episode of Jesse I Interviews, coming to you once again from the lands of the Wurundjeri and Boon Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Although these lands are now known to the world as the City of Melbourne in Australia, sovereignty was never ceded, so I want to acknowledge that this always has been and always will be Aboriginal land, and I want to pay respect where respect is due. My name is Jesse I, and this podcast was started in order to make available the many reggae and dancehall related interviews that I've conducted over the last few decades, some of which have been previously aired on my radio show in an edited form, and some of which have never been heard anywhere before. This episode's a bit different though, as I'm featuring an interview that I recorded just a few weeks ago. It's an interview with one of the biggest artists in Jamaica's roots revival movement, Protoje. I'm not a big fan of phone interviews generally, and I rarely do them these days, but this interview was actually done via a Zoom video chat, which was certainly a first for me, a lot more enjoyable than a normal phone interview. The sound quality isn't as great as I'd like, especially on my end, so I'm going to have to invest in a better mic if I do these sort of interviews again in the future. This was actually the second time I've interviewed Protoje, and although there's a bit of double up, I've decided to include my first interview with him here also. I first interviewed him in 2012, and he spoke more about his early days in that interview, so it's worth listening to both if you're a fan. I'm going to start with the newest first though, so let's do it. Jesse I interviews Protoje, September 2020. So right now, joining me on Babylon Burning is the artist Protoje. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me, man.
So it's been quite some time since I spoke to you last. It was 2012 at Don Corleon's studio in Cherry Gardens. A lot of time has passed since then, but for the people that didn't hear that interview, I'd like to go back to the very beginning and ask you where you were born and what life was like for you growing up.
I was born in St. Elizabeth, west side of Jamaica, very rural area. Life is full of open land and imagination, and lots of time alone.
And what about the music? What was your first experience getting into the music?
Into the music, just being around it, sound system style, seeing my mom and dad on stage. Just in Jamaica, you're always close to someone who is in music, you know.
So what about your first steps in the business as a recording artist?
Just started doing my own thing, doing my mixtape, and trying to get some traction. Then I got on a song with DJ Kareem in 2008 called Arguments. That was my first single. And then after that, then I started to work with Don Corleon, and I did my first album.
So what can you tell us about those early recordings and the feeling of being in the studio and hearing your music out and about on the sound systems and on the radio?
It was cool. It was dope. I mean, to be honest, like those days were really fun. Just getting to do music and coming up with stuff and being in a big studio for the first time. Like when I went and recorded at Don's studio and did Dread, it was the first time I had been in a studio of that stature. So just learning, starting to hear my songs on radio first was a good vibe for me.
Now, if I remember correctly, Don is your cousin, is that right? Now I was wondering, he's been quiet. It's been some time since we've heard any new music from him. So what is he doing these days?
Well, he's in America a lot. He spends a lot of time in United States. He hasn't been doing much local music in a while. He left from Jamaica about 5-6 years ago and has been spending most of his time abroad.
Okay, that makes sense, because that's about that time since we had any new rhythms from him. But of course, these days, like Indignation Collective is your label, is that correct?
Yes.
So what can you tell us about Indignation, how that came about?
I just needed, when I did my second album with Don, 8-Year Affair, and I started to see the importance of putting out music on my own label, owning my own masters, and taking more control over my career and my music, and just musically, creatively. And I just decided that I wanted to start a label, you know what I mean? My band was Protoje and Indignation, so I just decided to start a label out of it, and the first song I released on that label was Who Knows, which is like a massive, massive song. So it really catapulted my label into a point where I could start to build from.
Mm. One thing I've noticed with Indignation Collective, a lot of the artists, you work with a lot of female artists on the label. Obviously, Lila Ike, Savannah, Jazz Elise. Have you made a conscious decision to really promote female artists in the music?
On a level, but I still have to say it's organic. I mean, I just reached out to Savannah because she was the dopest vocalist I'd heard, and I was like, I need to meet her. And once I met her and decided you see, the thing is that I've approached other artists as well, like just to see what their vibe is and whatever. But um, Savannah was very I could see she was listening to what I was saying and wanted my input. And I guess I can sense when people want the input or see the opportunity for what it is. And Savannah and Leela just made the best use of the opportunity that was given to them.
Hmm. Okay, well, obviously the big project right now for the album, for the label, is your new album, In Search of Lost Time. And I got to say, this has been on high rotation for me ever since it dropped. I'm listening to it every single day, which for me, that's actually quite a thing because, I don't tend to listen to albums so much as I have been with this one. But this, I've got to say, it's not a traditional reggae sound. There's a lot of different influences, a lot of hip hop influence, soul influences on some tracks. How would you describe the album?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different sounds. I mean, I've been moving away from traditional reggae ever since my first record. As always, have been little steps like forward and to change the sound. And I feel like now we've gone 5 albums in and about now feeling the creative freedom I can to just make the sounds I want them to sound. It's not no deep thing about like it's all just making the music how it sounds in my head. It's just that's just how the music is coming out. That's the beats I'm liking, going through, shifting through lots of music, seeing what resonates with me, and what you're hearing on the project is the stuff that resonates with me, which is all of the genres that I love.
Hmm. What about the name for the album? Where did that come from?
It came from just feeling that while you're searching for one thing, something else is slipping away. And I'm spending more time at home this year, seeing, how do I say, my daughter getting older, my parents getting older, and missing weddings, birthdays, all these types of things. Just trying to catch up back for time that I've lost.
Hmm. One thing I noticed as well is on YouTube, there's visualizers for every song on YouTube. So obviously, normally when an album comes out, people can't make video clips for every single song, but YouTube has obviously become so important for the promotion of the music. You've done these visualizers for every song. What was the thinking behind that?
Just to give people something else to look at, you know what I mean? Give them something else to look at instead of just the album cover. I feel like YouTube is for visuals, so I wanted something visual.
Hmm.
We're still working on more videos, straight videos for songs as well. But I just wanted to give them something to get a feeling from, and I feel that the visualizers did that.
Yeah, I like it. In the song Like Royalty, you talk about your early days, sleeping on friends' couches, and I guess the message is to remember where you've come from and not forget those people that helped you along the way. Would you say that's the right reading of that song?
Definitely, 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 because I think that that song is just talking about when people were helping me out when I was going through some stuff. And when I was sleeping on people's couch, it wasn't that far back. That was in the middle of Who Knows. That's when Who Knows was tearing up the world. Like I had used all the money I had, like all my money to put into Ancient Future. So I had no money and I was like, I have to go back to the country, and my friend was like, no bro, you need to stay up by my house and consolidate from there. So it wasn't even like when I was just coming up. It was like when I just had to, when I was trying to start my label, I had to just put all of my life savings that I've made from my first 2 projects and hope that it would work.
Hmm. And obviously linking with popcorn was an interesting flavor on the album compared to the normal combinations. How did that link come about?
Popcorn reached out to me he wanted me to do his show on Rolly Fest, and when I went and did that, he was like, "Yo, the year can't 2020 can't pass and we don't do something together." So from then I started to envision what I wanted the sound to be, and then once I came up with like royalty, I was like, "Yo, this is the sound for him for sure." And he was feeling the idea from the moment he heard it, so it was just good for both of us.
Mm. The other combination I love is the one with coffee, and I love the reference to the Hello Proto from Toast, and it gets turned around in this.
Yeah, trust me, I like that too. Can I tell you when I heard it, I was like, um, I just when I heard the rhyme, I was like, I'm gonna have to say this, because it's gonna. I think people are gonna make the connection and be like, yo, that's cool. The reference, she references. I love those connections musically between artists, and to
Mm.
go back and forth with the, like a semi-automatic, you know what I mean, like rifle in
Mm.
peak form is just really fun.
Yeah. Um, One of my favorite lyrics on the album is in the song Self Defense, where you say, me hear someone say them rather rape than turn a gay, as if them their thing related in any way. Of course, Jamaica is become known around the world for homophobia. It seems like there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding about homosexuality in Jamaica. I know this can be a touchy question for a lot of Jamaican artists, but what are your thoughts on homophobia in Jamaican music?
I mean, put it this way, I think I speak for myself. I think I speak for my music speaks to all of that stuff. And if you listen to my music, then you can clearly see the way I feel and the way I speak about stuff. In this song, I'm definitely saying that, yo, this is something I've heard men say before. And I'm saying you cannot equate somebody having the freedom of choice to do what they're doing and to forcefully take and rape a woman. And I just felt that something like that needed to be said on record.
Mm.
And I know that the line will be perceived certain way by people, but so be it. I just thought that it was something that needed to be said.
Mm. Yeah, respect for that. Um, Obviously, you've done a whole bunch of combinations with some of the big names in the reggae revival, the biggest names in reggae revival movement, Chronix, Kabaka, so forth. But last year you featured on a combination with Ake Becker, the late Vaughan Benjamin. I was wondering how that link came about.
Um, I went to Atlanta to do a show, and then I got invited to studio by Pressure. I went to the studio with Tippy and Pressure invited me. I went there. I did a song for Pressure's album. When I did the song for Pressure's album, Jadi, who plays Jana in band, and also Zion King, so he makes a lot of music for that crew.
Mm.
He was like, "Yo, he's doing a Von Benjamin album and he wants me to feature." And it was that simple. I was like, "I'll do anything involving Von, like whatever he needs, whatever." And I just did my verse, and I was a part of it. And I was very honored to be a part of a song with Von.
Yeah, well, that's a good one to have in the history books. Obviously, with his passing, there's the Jamaican Virgin Islands connection like that can't happen again.
Von is a sage, like a spirit amongst men, and a teacher, a mentor, guide, just one of the finest voices and to ever like be a part of music.
Mm. When we last spoke in 2012, I asked you about the place of Rastafari in Jamaican music, and of course things have evolved since then, as they always do. How do you feel Rastafari fits into Jamaican music now in 2020?
It's still always the root, you see me? It's still always the root. Like that's always be the root of the music and the consciousness of the West. You understand? So the consciousness it will always have a place. I feel that musically the sounds are changing, and what people are singing about and changing, but the ideologies, a lot of ideologies and a lot of potency still remains in the music. And I think from that is present, then I think I'm very happy about it, but at the same time, messages evolve, views change and evolve as well. And I think that as time goes along, we have to be able to learn how to communicate with the youth of today as well.
Of course, it's been in the news a lot lately with the little girl being refused attendance at school for the dreadlocks. How do you feel about Rastafari in Jamaican society? It's still no more accepted than it has been in the past.
It's definitely more accepted, but there are just instances where these things kind of flare up. I refrain to speak on a case I don't know like the full knowledge about, because I feel a lot of time when we see and hear things, our first thing to do is go with an immediate reaction. A lot of times we find out the reasons why things happen. You'll be like, okay, I misinterpreted what it was, but certainly no child should be refused attendance to school because of having locks. That's absurd on a fundamental basis overall.
Mm. Now, this is something I asked you last time, but I ask again for the people that didn't hear that interview. A lot of people have mentioned to me, a lot of my listeners have said here in Australia, they find your delivery easier to understand than other Jamaican artists. Even though you chat patois and speak in a Jamaican accent, for some reason they find it a bit easier to understand. Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. I just think my style is unique, and I feel that I jump between the way I communicate a lot, on different songs. If I sing a song like Same So, my English will be different than if I sing a song like Switch It Up. It's like it's just for me, I've just found a way to communicate. And then to be fair, like clarity, the the the, the mic I'm singing through, the way my vocals is being placed in the mix, I pay a lot of attention to clarity for my listener to hear me.
Mm-hmm. Of course, the biggest thing to happen in 2020 has been coronavirus, COVID-19. How has that affected you? And what has life been like in Jamaica during the pandemic?
I'd say it has affected me in terms of my touring, but touring, I've not been able to go out and play music. So that has been a bit of a drag, to be honest. But in terms of making music, I'd say it's been by far the most productive time ever in my life. I built a studio right before the virus was started, and I've been locked away in it for the past 5 months. So it's just been really productive.
Hmm. What about in Jamaica generally? How's the Jamaican experience been of the virus?
It was going good, and then it started to get out of control. But for the most part, you haven't really seen it like this. It's just been the whole place is on lockdown, so that's been getting quite annoying for people, but it hasn't really got way out of control yet, so we're still watching it.
Right. So you're still in lockdown now? No dancers keep in or anything like that?
Still in lockdown now.
Hmm. All right. So
But
what do we have to look forward to from you in the future?
man, I just dropped the album 2 weeks ago, so it's just promoting the album, shooting new visuals, getting the songs out there, doing this work, like just trying to make sure that the music gets out there as much as it can, and so far so good. So we're just zoning in on that.
Right. Well, to wrap things up, is there any last message or anything you'd like to pass on to the listeners in Australia?
No, man, just thanks for the support. I've always wanted to come there and play music, so I'm just hoping that in time I'll be able to do that. So for now, it's just keep listening to the music. Go check out Leela and Savannah's music as well, and thanks for the support.
All right. Respect, Protoje. Give thanks.
Yeah, man, enough respect, man.
Nice one. So I'm going to play this interview on the radio, of course, and I started a podcast just recently called Jesse I Interviews. So I'm putting all my old interviews on there. I'll put this on there as well. I'll send you the link when it's up.
That sounds good.
All right, man. Well, you look after yourself. Keep making good music, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, man. Be safe, man.
All right, enough respect. That was Protoje speaking from his home in Jamaica last month, September 2020. I first interviewed him 8 years ago when I met him at Don Corleon's studio in the uptown suburb of Cherry Gardens back in 2012. As usual, I'm going to play that interview as raw as possible. I'm leaving in a bit of banter before the interview officially started, and again at the end as he recorded some jingles for my radio show. And I'm even going to leave in the question I said I'd remove at the time, as it made me look a bit silly. Unlike edited interviews that I would play on the radio, I'm trying to present these interviews here on the podcast as raw as possible to give a behind-the-scenes feel where possible. But I have edited out some of Protoje's coughs and wheezes. He was a bit sick at the time of this recording. So here we go again. Jesse I interviews Protoje, July 2012.
So how's the reggae doing in Australia now?
Well, I mean, it's hard work, to be honest, to actually promote reggae music in Australia, because most people in Australia, well, I mean, they're either not interested or they just can't understand the patois, they can't relate to the music.
Yeah, true.
Especially dancehall. But at the same time, there's a lot of Africans there.
Yes.
And they love dancehall music, so the scene is small but strong. The problem is growing it. It's sort of like
and
plateaued,
getting the younger people to listen to it
You
as
need
well.
personalities, and they have to. Where does it go? When you, I guess, spreading the music, people need to identify with specific artists more than just music. I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's on the artists to really inspire the new generation than for them to, like, say, fall in love with stuff from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Even though that is the most golden era stuff, but they want to turn on them YouTube and search for a new video by a new, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
You ready?
Anytime?
Yeah.
Alright, right now I'm in Cherry Gardens in Kingston, Jamaica, in the studio of Don Corleon with the artist Protoje. Thank you for speaking to us here on Babylon Burning.
Yeah, man, every time give thanks, you know?
I always like to start my interviews with the foundation. I'd like to know where you were born, what life was like growing up.
I was born in Manchester. And, I mean, hospital in Manchester, but really I'm from St. Elizabeth. Breadbasket of Jamaica, a lot of farming, grew up in the country. On a whole heap of land space, you could just run up and down and have time to think, you know, because just such a vast area. And that's where I really started, and everything really started from.
What about musically? How did you first come to be involved with reggae music?
Well, just music on a whole, not even reggae music. I mean, I started my mom's a reggae singer from the 70s, pretty successful, and I learned, you know, heard her music. And
what was her name?
Lorna Bennett.
Okay,
right.
Your mom?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she, you know, I guess being around her in that era of musicians, I would have heard a lot of reggae. But my first, I would say, writing or distinct memory of music was hip-hop, when I heard a Slick Rick song called Children's Story, and I want to flow like that. And that's how I kind of started out, and then eventually a lot of dancehall influence, and then I came back to the root of reggae in my, you know, later teens, and kind of wanted that to be the sound that I kind of perform my lyrics on, with that reggae song, which is, if you really check it, the root of hip-hop also is that early 80s Channel 1 type of book bap type of sound really started there, so it's one and the same thing.
So what about in terms of recording? What was the first studio that you voiced for? Was it Don Corleon?
No, it wasn't. The first thing I officially put out was a song called Arguments for producer DJ Kareem. Used to be in part of Renaissance Disco. And he's a successful producer that done a lot of reggae and dancehall, and I basically, he's my good friend, and I really asked him for a favor quite plainly to give me that rhythm, because he was going to give to Sizzler, and I really asked him that, I just need this, it's going to change my, you know, career or whatever, and he gave me the rhythm. up to that point, I really hadn't recorded any reggae type of stuff. It was more, as I say, fusion, you know. And then when I got that reggae now, I just wrote that song, and then we recorded it down in St. Elizabeth, and I gave him the track, and he loved it, and we put it out, and that started everything.
When was that?
This was 2008. I recorded it in 2006, 2007, but it came out 2009, 2 years after.
Okay. What about the relationship with Don Corleon?
Yeah, I mean, I've known Don my whole life. We're cousins, so I mean, we grew up next door to each other, so I mean, I've known him for a long time. We formed a sound together, Vendetta, in 2000, and we did that. But then we really didn't work together for I went away for a year in Canada. When I came back, he was already blew up as a producer in that year and a half, and we didn't do any work together up until 2010. So that's like 8 years after. So the whole time I was more trying to focus on my thing. He was, doing his thing, but at the same point in time, there was no beef or anything, but I was just trying to do my thing, and eventually he came to one of my shows and saw me perform the song Dread, and he heard it. He was like, yo, did I record it for anybody? I was like, no. And he said, he wanted to record that song, and we did that. Then he heard J.A. and he said he would want to record that, and we did that, and then it was like, before you knew it was 7 tracks, and we were like, yo, let's just do an album together. So that's how it kind of went.
I don't think that album hasn't released yet, has it?
Yeah,
it has?
7 Year Itch.
Oh yeah, of course. What am I?
Yeah.
I have to delete that part. I sound like an idiot. I have that album.
Sorry, yeah. So
Yeah.
the 7 Year Itch was my first record, and that was one I did with him.
Right, and that must have come out about a year and a half.
Yeah, approximately January 25th, 2011. So about a year and a half ago.
Right.
And yeah, that was the work. He did 12 out of 13 tracks on it, and
Right.
yeah.
So, what was the point where you felt like you really bust in Jamaica and worldwide?
No, I still don't
You
feel
still
that
don't
way.
feel that way?
I mean, it's just because maybe what I use the word bust to mean maybe different than you. I don't know, so I don't walk around feeling like I've made it.
Right.
I know I have a real good opportunity, and I'm performing on the big shows, and my song is getting airplay, but many artists have got to this point and fizzled to nothing.
True.
So I mean, when I'm 15 years in it, and then I can look back and say that, but I do know that Rasta Love, Arguments, J.A., Dread, these songs were doing very good in Jamaica. But when Rasta Love hit, that was like a whole nother level, and that would to kind of answer your question, I know I was a household name almost at that time, and then that song kind of got me to go on the road, which when I went on the road, I found out that I had songs in Germany, in these countries, just as big as Rasta Love. You know what I mean? But they were not necessarily as big in Jamaica.
Yeah. Well, speaking of internationally, I mean, one thing that I feel with your music is that the way you deliver your music vocally is more accessible than a lot of other Jamaican artists. Maybe there's less accent or less patois. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But I've noticed a lot of people can understand what you're saying. People that can't necessarily penetrate the patois can understand what you're saying easier.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I do DJ in my patois, which is clear with my Jamaican accent is clear in my music, but it's just the way I guess. Sorry, I'm having sickness. It's just the way I speak. This is the way I speak. I make sure to sing the way I speak.
Right.
I don't want to be. It is a proper representation of who I am. And I grew in the country in St. Elizabeth, so I'll have a different drawl on my voice than say somebody from inner city Kingston. You know what I mean? So it's patois, but it's even a different type of patois. And then I've lived in Florida, I've lived in Canada, you know what I mean? I kind of go to school. I've been to school there for years, but I mean, I just try to be honest in the way I sound, and I think, as I've said, I've had a lot of influences from all type of music, not just reggae, so it comes out in the vocal. And initially I got criticized for that when I just started. People would say, you need to sound more street, or you need to have more of a and I'm like, this is me. I'm not gonna try sound like nobody, and that's what I think makes the music original.
Right. What about the place for Rastafari in your music?
Yes. What about the place?
When did you first take on the Rastafari? Is maybe a better question.
Yeah, I would say some point in time between when I started 2009, I came out with Arguments. That's the last time I ever cut my hair before that. And I didn't start out, thinking or with Rastafari in my meds as such, you understand? But as I kind of progress in music and just what I started to read a lot more and going through these changes in my life, not musically, but just as a person, and the people I would be around and elders I started to be around and speak to, and I really kind of found a peace in Rastafari, and it's been a gradual journey. I didn't get up one day and be like, okay, bam, Rastafari. It was like a learning process. And as you can see, the music has changed from This Girl Is Crying Over Me to like more, different stuff, Take Control of Them. On this new album, you'll even see more, because a lot of the songs on the first album were written 5-6 years ago. So I would say about the time I wrote Rasta Love, about before that time I started to really cite Rastafari, and as you can see, it has been present in my music since.
Yeah, looking back at Jamaican music over the last 10 years, or even 15 years, there was a lot more Rasta artists in the music back then. Obviously the Bubbos, Sizzla, Capleton, Anthony B, Turbulence, and those kind of artists. These days it seems like new Rasta artists are becoming more and more rare. Do you think that's because reggae rhythms, one-drop rhythms, are becoming more rare in Jamaica, or why is
I think
this?
it's a cycle, and I mean right now I can say that the Bubba Shanti, Sizzla, Capleton, all of that, Anthony B, them, were very present, as you say. Like right now, the 12 Tribes of Israel, like myself, Kabaka Pyramid, Janai, and a lot of people affiliated with the house is are presently emerging artists. So it's all about time and cycle, and I think that the time for that type of music and energy in the music is now, and I can see fully well where in the next year, 2 years, you'll see another uprising of furious lions, coming forward.
So tell us about what's coming for you in the immediate future.
Well, right now we're working on the second album, The 8-Year Affair, hopefully to be out before the year is over. That's been the main goal, and to drop a second album that really solidifies my place in current reggae music, and that's the major thing right now. We have a bunch of videos coming out over the next month or two to build up some energy for that record, and that's the main thing. And getting on the road with the band Indignation, that's been the plan now, so we're already planning our schedule for next couple of months as we go into end the year and the new year.
And you just got back from Summer Jam in Europe?
Yeah, we just got back from Summer Jam, a couple of other shows there, and great experience. It was good to see so many people singing the music, and I'm glad people got to see some footage from it here locally on local television, and to let people know here that reggae music is shining all across the world and needs some more attention out of Jamaica. And
there's more than just Cartel and Mavado.
Yeah, there's more than dancehall and that, and as I respect dancehall too, those are even two artists that I've learned a lot from musically. Believe it or not, people will think that because I do reggae I neglect certain artists, but artists like those are brilliant artists in what it is they do, and a lot to learn from them also.
True. All right, well, is there a message you'd like to pass on to the listeners back in Australia?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, if you do like the music and listen to the music, just share it. We need people to share the music. That's how the music is going to be spread, and people a lot of the time don't put enough importance on what they can do to help artists that they like, and just share the music, and Rastafari I love every time, and yeah, just keep looking out for more stuff from Protoje and the reggae revival out of Jamaica.
All right, respect. Give thanks for joining us here on Babylon Burning.
Yeah, man, give thanks for spreading the music. Yes.
Nice one. Yes. Can I get you to do a couple jingles for the radio program? So, yeah, Babylon Burning with Jesse I on PBS FM.
Ready again?
Yep. Yeah, actually, if you can do that one again, I screwed up the recording. My bad.
No problem.
Okay, anytime.
Yeah. And me say, who them a program? Babylon burning the station of them iPan. Who them a program? Who in the pharmacy down on a spy pan? Hey, a Babylon burning, you know, with Jesse I and PBS FM and a Protoje I represent. We say play the music, you know, spread it, you dig?
Wicked.
Ready again?
Yeah.
And they don't want you to know marijuana. It's up and be free, just so let it be. They don't want you to know marijuana. It's up and be free, just so let it be. Babylon burning, you know. Jesse I met them know say reggae music. A Protoje, you know. PBS FM, you know. Locking, you dig?
Wicked. Give thanks for that.
Yeah, man, I can just make sure some dubs too and some specials.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, because I have a little sound as well as radio.
Gmail, pretty simple.
All right, let me write this
So
down.
just hit me up and when I get done.
Protoje speaking to me from the studio of Don Corleon, Kingston, Jamaica, July 2012. I'm sad to say that I did email Protoje about some dubplate specials as he suggested at the end there, but he never wrote back to me about it. A damn shame. He charges quite a lot for dubs these days. Definitely out of my price range. I do enjoy the contrast between these two interviews, one before he felt like he'd really made it and the other after he clearly has. I think it's also worth noting that the first interview from 2012 was just before the reggae revival movement really took off. On the same trip to Jamaica, I saw Chronix and Kabaka Pyramid perform together at a small club show, and at one point I was surprised to see that Sizzla Kalonji was quietly standing in the crowd right next to me. He was there with no entourage, just a female companion, and he'd obviously just come out to check out and support the young Rasta youths. Within a year of that trip, Chronix was pretty much a household name in reggae, and Kabaka soon followed. That's it for another episode of Jesse I Interviews. If you've been enjoying the podcast or you have any other feedback, feel free to get in touch. You can email me at jesse@chantdown.com or link up on Instagram @morefireblaze or on Facebook at either Jesse Hype for my personal page or Jesse I for my DJ page. Don't forget you can also listen to any of my past radio shows from the last 6 months at pbsfm.org.au. Just search on there for Babylon Burning. Also, don't forget to subscribe and leave me a positive review to help other reggae fans discover this podcast. Thanks for listening. Eyes every time.